Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are having a fabulous day. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I'm a mom, a nana, a runner, a jazzerciser, which is where I'm getting ready to go after I'm done here today. I own an activewear boutique. I'm a grad school student studying for my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And I'm a huge wellness advocate because I have spent most of my life with functional anxiety and depression. And I have learned so much on my journey. And some of what I've learned has been from other people, which is why I share here on Wellness Wednesday and encourage you to share with me, because sometimes we can learn from others who have been through something similar or the same, that have found ways to move toward recovery that we would have never thought about otherwise, right? So sharing is super important. It's kind of like pure wisdom, which is why support groups work so well. So if you are here, just let me know you're here so that I can say hi. And if you don't see this till afterwards, drop a comment, a question, whatever, and I will definitely respond. Sometimes Facebook doesn't show me all the things. So if you're here and you ask a question or you make a comment and I don't respond, it's just because I didn't see it, and I will definitely do so after I am done. So I hope you enjoyed, if you were here last week, I hope you enjoyed last week's video on the power of sleep, which was preceded by the art of napping. So lots of coverage the last couple weeks on sleeping and its benefits. Let me know if you haven't seen it and you would like to, and I'll be happy to tag you in it. But today we're going to do a little spring cleaning. And, or rather find out why spring cleaning is good for our mental health, even if it's, that time of year where everybody's doing spring cleaning and it just makes you want to roll your eyes and climb back in bed. So why is spring cleaning a good thing? This is also what I like to affectionately refer to as Donna's Nerd Facts. Good morning, Miss Danielle. Spring cleaning is a time of renewal and rebirth. Mother Nature knows it's time for a fresh start, and maybe it's a hint that we should do the same or take the opportunity to do the same. Spring also signals increased energy and transition, especially for those who suffer from seasonal affective disorder, experience long winter, dark winter months. Spring is a increase in warmth and in sunshine, and it's an opportunity to kind of just increase your energy, peel off layers, if you will, and find a place of transition. Good morning, Chanel. How are you? So tangible accomplishments are a big deal here. Our brains like it when we finish what we've started. There was a book written, and I'm terrible because I cannot remember the gentleman's name right now, but a short book that's definitely worth the read, written, and I'll drop a link in the comments so that you can check it out, called Make Your Bed. And one of the premises being that people who are successful, one of the first things they do in the morning is make their bed, because they've already accomplished something right out of the gate in the morning. And for years and years and years, my bed was a hot mess. I never made it. I straightened it up as much as I needed to get into it each night. But once I started making my bed, and there was a unique circumstance that caused me to start this, and it was long before I read the book. Once I started making my bed, I looked back at the bed each morning, and I already felt a sense of accomplishment before I even got in the shower. And that was a huge help for me. So our brains like it when we finish what we've started, which in this era of multitasking almost never happens. So tangible accomplishments are important. And that's one of the things behind spring cleaning is, if you're anything like me, so much of the work a lot of us do now is not physical, it's mental. And we spend the day on computers and we accomplish very much. However, it doesn't feel or look like it sometimes. Am I right? Sometimes it seems like we haven't gotten anything done, or that our lists are just way longer than what we can accomplish during a day. So a tangible accomplishment like making your bed in the morning, where you can visibly see what you've accomplished, makes a huge difference. And that's some of the premise behind spring cleaning, and why it is so helpful for us is because we can see the tangible results of that. So a 2010 study shows that cluttered and unfinished projects increase the risk of depression and fatigue. I had a friend a very long time ago whose bedroom was basically their storage place. And when you walked in the bedroom, you basically only had enough room to walk to the side that they got into on bed, and things were piled up in corners and along the wall, and just stacks and stacks. Good morning, Stacy. Stacks and stacks of things all through their bedroom. And not long after this began, they started having trouble sleeping. So this is the kind of thing we're talking about. A lot of clutter or unfinished projects can kind of hang over our heads. This individual found it very difficult to go to sleep at night. And once they got their bedroom under control and stopped using it as a storage space and started getting it so that it wasn't as daunting and there was room to move and it was a little more appealing visually, they started having a little less trouble sleeping. Another thing that I will often refer to, if you've watched any of my previous videos, are energy leaks. Energy leaks are things that kind of hang out there in the background that we know we need to do or that we need to work on, but they're not getting done. And so it's like a dark cloud that's constantly hanging over our heads of things that we need to finish. And energy leaks can be any number of things. They can be physical things like piles of papers. Don't even get me started on the piles. We'll talk about that in a minute. Piles of papers, unfinished projects, things like that. And spring cleaning, and it doesn't necessarily have to happen in the spring, but spring cleaning as we know it is a time that we can get through some of those energy links and kind of work through them and pluck the weeds, so to speak. So researchers at Clorox polled 2,000 people and found that every hour of cleaning, are you ready for this? Because I'm sure you're not going to believe me, just like I didn't believe it when I read it. Every hour of cleaning in this poll of 2,000 people that Clorox did equals a 53% boost in overall happiness. Now, here's the kicker. People that actually enjoyed cleaning, they were 25% happier overall. Those are some impressive numbers. So even if we don't like cleaning, what that says is that even if we don't like cleaning, that sense of accomplishment and being able to see a completed project, yes, even if it's destroyed 5 minutes later, makes a huge difference in our overall happiness. An Indiana study found that people with clean homes are healthier and, are you ready for this, more active as well. And the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that cleaning significantly reduces stress and anxiety. And then finally, a sleep study, final nerd fact, a sleep study by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine found that those with cluttered rooms are more likely to develop sleep problems and hoarding disorder. And now what I just described to you about this friend that had the bedroom that had things stacked up, sometimes that's how it started. Somebody doesn't have a lot of space they're storing, and things just keep stacking up and stacking up. They don't get time to go through it. They're hesitant to get rid of things that they might need later. And that is sometimes where that hoarding starts. It starts very innocently and it's never intentional. So how can we get the most out of spring cleaning for our mental health? Well, first of all, we've got to start by reframing it. By reframing it, I mean, instead of I have to do this and I have to do that, or this needs to be done, I get to do this and I get to do that. We can look at spring cleaning as an opportunity to start that process of renewal and rebirth, whether it's physical spring cleaning. Chanel, yes. Even though sometimes it takes me a while to get to it, I am much happier when my space is organized and clean. I totally understand, and I'm glad this is speaking to you today. So we have to start by reframing it. We have to look at it not so much as a chore, but as something that can start the growth and transition process. 5% of the population has seasonal affective disorder. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a disorder that's often caused, it's more prevalent up north, but it can happen down south. And the reason it's more prevalent up north is that less sunshine, shorter hours in the day. Up north, there tends to be less sunlight in general during the winter and more months. Good morning, Captain Charlie. More months of gloom and doom, and that can have an impact on it, basically causes like a temporary depression. And spring cleaning can often bring relief, even if the weather hasn't changed outside. If it is spring and you're starting to clean and make those changes, and it's warming up a little bit, you're able to open some windows, that can have a huge impact on those suffering from seasonal affective disorder. If you work from home, the best place to start with spring cleaning is your workspace, because that's the place where you spend most of your time. And if you saw mine right now, you would understand. Before I started this term's school break, I have 3-week breaks in between 10-week terms. I had said that before, actually what I said was the first thing I was going to do once the school break was over was clear everything off my desk, wipe it down, clean it up, put everything back, reorganize. I haven't done that yet, but I do know, good morning, Miss Kayla, that before I start my next term, that is going to happen. So if you work from home or if you're struggling with your office, start with your workspace. That's a great place to start spring cleaning. And it doesn't have to be a whole day. It doesn't have to be a whole room. And it doesn't even have to be half a day. You can start in small bites. If you're like me and you have piles, there's little piles sitting around. This is the pile I need to deal with now. This is the grocery pile. This is the pile for that organization I volunteer for. Start with one pile at a time. It will help, rather than assuming that you have to get everything done at one time. Take small bites and small steps. A lot of times you can actually decrease your financial stress by going through those piles of mail and receipts. Just yesterday, I had some piles of things that needed to be gone through, and I was in search of a very important document for an organization that I volunteer for that I knew was here. And I had an idea where it is, because sometimes we can really function well in that chaos. Even if it's piles and stacks of things everywhere, we know exactly where something is, or we have a good idea, and we can usually go right to it. And that's essentially what happened last night, was in searching for that document. It was found fairly quickly. Eric helped me out because I was trying to do two or three things at once, as usual. But that document was pretty much exactly where I thought it was. So a lot of times we can convince ourselves that we're operating, and we can sometimes operate just fine in a small amount of chaos for a period of time. And then if you're anything like me, something happens, or there comes a day where you're just like, I can't take it anymore. Nothing else is happening until this gets cleaned up. And then it just kind of snap. And that's okay. But going through those piles of mail, receipts, documents, whatever, can sometimes decrease your financial stress as you're locating maybe that insurance bill you forgot to pay, or this receipt you needed to take something back for. And it can kind of reduce your financial stress. So start with the piles if you can't start with anything else. Locate the piles. Everybody's got one. I know everybody's got one. A pile or a folder full of mail, receipts, documents, whatever, that has to be gone through. And again, it doesn't have to be a whole day or even a whole room. When you're suffering from depression, it can be hard to become motivated to work on this stuff. And then this stuff kind of contributes to the depression or anxiety. So it kind of becomes a cycle. So 20 minutes a day, if you can dedicate 20 minutes a day to one drawer in your closet, or one pile on a table, or one corner of something, and then just say, I'm going to work on this for 20 minutes a day. The benefits that you will feel from accomplishing that thing and getting through it are huge. So another thing about spring cleaning is that you can do it without distractions if you choose to. You can put down your phone. You can spend that time just focusing on that one thing, which is really hard in this day and age to do, to just stop and focus on one thing. And you don't need to buy into the consumerism. You might start cleaning and scroll through Facebook and be like, oh, I have the Sweep, I'm just making stuff up now. I have the Sweep Daddy 2000, but now there's the Sweep Daddy 30,000. I can't get this done unless I have that product. Stay off of social media. You don't need all of those things to clean and organize. So the less distractions you have, the more focused you can be. And I don't know about you, but here's what happens when I actually start to get into cleaning. What happens is my brain starts processing through stuff it hasn't had a chance to think about. And I could have the music on loud and be jamming out while I'm scrubbing the shower. And then all of a sudden, little puzzle pieces start putting themselves into place and start putting themselves together. And I'm going to have a solution for that in just a minute. But it can help you focus, and it can help you when you don't have all the distractions coming at you like the cell phone, scrolling social media, whatever, when you don't have all those distractions and you're just focused on that one thing, whatever it is, you sometimes will find clarity that you didn't know you needed. So one of the ways to let the spring cleaning affect you both emotionally and mentally as well as physically is you can equate the clutter that you're clearing out to negative thoughts and negative memories. And it's kind of like letting go of the past. I used to have a shoebox that I kept for a very long time of memorabilia from a certain boyfriend. And every time I cleaned, this shoebox turned up, and sometimes I would end up in a squirrel and I would go through it and look and see what was in there. But over time, once I started learning to let that person go, I would start weeding things out of that box each time I opened it until there really wasn't much left. Now, I'm not one to get rid of photographs because God forbid you never know when you might actually need them. And I've learned that the hard way. But letters that were written, maybe little memorabilia that's just taking up space. Sometimes decluttering means letting go of those things that help you hold on to the past when you don't need to be. And I know that's a very difficult thing. But especially if it's something that when you touch it, you're like, oh, so-and-so gave this to me, and it brings up as many negative feelings as it does positive ones, and it's not actually an item that serves you a daily purpose. I have things that have been gifted to me by exes that serve a daily purpose. I think I do. I might not actually still have any left. No, I have a couple. They don't have a negative connotation to them, even if they came from a specific person. But those things that are laying around that you hang on to, because you're hanging on to a memory, whether it's good or bad, those are the things that when you declutter, maybe you will find it helpful to get rid of, and that'll be a little spring cleaning for your soul as well. But more importantly, as you're cleaning clutter, you can visualize clutter as getting rid of negative emotions and getting rid of negative thoughts. And that makes spring cleaning helpful on so many other levels besides just the physical and the aesthetic. Another thing about spring cleaning is that when we are feeling out of control in our lives, cleaning in general, not just spring cleaning, but we're talking about spring cleaning. So cleaning in general can make you, can give you a sense of control. And here's what I'm talking about. I love my family. And I would frequently host my family for Thanksgiving. And sometimes that meant my boyfriend at the time's family as well, which meant a lot of people in my house, which was it's not as bad for me now, but used to be quite overwhelming for me. So I loved them. I wanted them all to get together, but it was still very overwhelming for me, especially with so many people there. You know, just the act of putting down purses or overnight bags or whatever sometimes meant that things just got spread out everywhere, and my house was just a complete disaster. The one thing I could always control was the kitchen. Nobody else wanted to be in there. So it was easy for me if I was feeling overwhelmed or feeling like I was, fighting for attention, or that things were just too loud and distracting, I would go into the kitchen and I would either cook or I would clean. And what I discovered about myself was that I was doing that because I could focus on that and I could still be part of the conversation. I could still be part of the family interaction, but nobody else was really in my space. They would ask if I needed help, and I would frequently say no. Was it because I didn't want help? Well, kind of, yeah. It was because this was my space and I could control how I put things in the dishwasher without anybody coming behind me and changing it or making a mess of it. It was my domain that I could control, and cleaning and scrubbing and cooking and organizing and things like that gave me a sense of control when I didn't feel like I had it with so many people in my home. So having that sense of control when you don't feel like you have it anywhere else, in the form of cleaning, scrubbing the shower, cleaning the kitchen, whatever, can sometimes be hugely therapeutic, and it can give you that feeling of control in an area where you might not have it somewhere else. Another thing that cleaning does for you is it releases endorphins. Not as many per se as a 30-minute exercise or sweat workout like a jazzercise or a run, but it does release endorphins. Let me just tell you about my shower. I hate my shower. I dread when it's got to be clean, and that means I probably let it go for too long, because tile grout, need I say more? The happiest day of my life will be if we ever remodel a shower and get rid of all the tile, because as pretty as it is, I can't stand the grout. And so cleaning the shower becomes an overwhelming thing that I don't want to deal with. I let it go for too long. And then it is literally an upper body workout when I do it. I'm like exhausted. Because I'm short and the shower's tall. So all the scrubbing and stretching and everything. And then by the time I get it done, I'm just exhausted. But it does release endorphins. So not only are you getting that visual accomplishment of having completed something that you can see, that tangible result, but you're also getting some exercise and you're getting your body moving and you're getting the blood flowing. And that means that you are moving endorphins. So even if it's not a true workout, I mean, cleaning every day doesn't necessarily replace exercise, but it will get you those steps and it will get you some endorphin release that will make you feel better. And that's part of that synergy. Depression and anxiety, when we can release endorphins, it makes us feel better. It's that feel-good hormone, and it affects everything. So if you have doubts as to whether or not cleaning a shower can do that for you, just let it go for a couple weeks too long and then tear into it. You'd be surprised how you feel afterwards when it's all clean and shiny and everything smells good and you feel better as well because you've just put in a little bit of a sweat session, moving your body and releasing those endorphins. There's also a social embarrassment that can come from a messy house. Now, I have grown way past that. I know that my house is not anything close to messy. And I know that mine never really was, because even if it wasn't being kept up with, I was always a fairly clean person. A lot of times it was clutter. And if a friend came over, it was usually just a mad rush to shove things in corners, under beds, in drawers, until I had time to go through it and deal with it. But there is, some people really struggle to let people come to their home, to let friends, family members come to their home. Excuse me. It's pollen season, y'all, because they're embarrassed about their messy house. So here's where I would start with this. Part of your spring cleaning needs to be understanding that your version of clean and your house is never going to look like, I'm going to speak to some of the people my age here, the Sears and Roebuck catalog. Okay, the Sears and Roebuck wish book where all the rooms looked perfect. You know, I spent hours and hours and hours a day when I was a kid looking at that and expecting my house. I had an expectation that that was what my house was supposed to look like, organized with all these cute tchotchkes and pillows and everything in its place. And that's not really what your home has to look like. It took me a long time to learn the difference between messy and lived in. And I enjoy the fact that my house looks lived in, and I used to be the queen of, if you showed at my house unexpectedly, no matter how clean my house was, I would be like, please excuse the mess. I'm so sorry. I wasn't expecting company. I got past that. It took me a very long time. But part of getting past that was realizing that everybody's version of what makes them feel good and what makes them feel organized is different. And none of it looks like the Martha Stewart or Sears and Roebuck catalog. And if it does, then maybe it's not really being lived in, but it really depends on the individual. And so we shouldn't judge ourselves against others or what we think it should look like. We need to judge ourselves on the cleanliness of a house based on how it makes us feel when we've gotten done with our cleaning. Does it look better than it did before? Does it make us feel better than it did before? Is the space functional for us? That's what counts, not that social comparison that may lead to embarrassment. And when we can let that go, some of that spring cleaning, that's where we really see the positive benefits of that cleaning, if you will. And now we're talking about a little bit more of a mental spring cleaning. So the more you accomplish, the more motivated you will become. If you're anything like me, you're like, okay, I set the timer for 20 minutes and I got this done already, which means I can start on this. And the more you can see tangible results, the more inclined you are going to be to keep going, and the better you are going to feel. So that is why I say set a timer, because I'm the girl that can get started on one thing first thing in the morning, and then I have a laundry list of other things I got to do. And then the next thing you know, it's been 4 hours. I've now cleaned 4 corners because I can't stop. Once I start feeling like I'm accomplishing something, it's very, very difficult to stop and change directions. So the more you accomplish, the more motivated you will become, not just on cleaning. sometimes accomplishing those little things will suddenly, you'll have a burst of motivation. You'll be like, you know what? This thing that I've been putting off that I want to do for myself, it's time. And that motivation from accomplishing those little things around the house will sometimes contribute to you getting some major goal accomplished, because you finally gave your brain a break long enough to see something tangible and go, you know what? I'm totally capable of this. Why have I been putting it off? Let me go work on this goal over here now that I've finished over here. So the more you accomplish, the more motivated you will become, which is why each thing that you clean in the auspice of spring cleaning has profound ripple effects when it comes to mental and emotional. Also, cleaning and sprucing up, depending on what you're working on, can be quality time. It really can. If your outdoor area is where it needs to be spruced up, planting plants and weeding out gardens and stuff, if you're doing it together with a child or with a spouse or partner, can be quality time. Conversations can happen in this instance. Working on the same goal together is huge. So it can really have an impact in that department too. Working on remodeling a bedroom, cleaning baseboards. It's amazing what can happen when you and the other person are working together, the kinds of collaboration. And like I said, just honest to goodness, quality time while accomplishing a goal can do for you with a family member, partner, whatever. How do we include our brain in this? Besides the stuff that I already talked about, including our brain looks something like keeping a notebook handy. And this is what I have to do, because otherwise, y'all, you know, I joke that I have adult onset ADD, but I really don't think that's it. I think it's just that I've spent too many years multitasking, and that it's very difficult for me to focus on one thing. And I've had to really discipline myself to do that. So here's what that looks like. It looks like keeping a notebook out. And that notebook, you know, you may have 3 or 4 pages going, but while you're doing your spring cleaning, while you're cleaning that drawer or that corner, you have this notebook out. And as your brain starts to clear, as you're working on these other things and your brain starts to process, your brain is going to go, oh, we need to stop right now and go do this because we've been meaning to do this for 3 weeks. Do you really need to stop right now and go do that? Or can you write it down as a to-do list for the next week, and then keep focusing on what you're doing? It's kind of like the mindfulness we talked about, where you're focusing on one thing and you have a thought and you're like, okay, I don't need to focus on that right now. And you just kind of acknowledge it and release it. Same idea. When you're cleaning, you come across something that's got to be done. Maybe you start a pile. God help me. You start another pile of this is what needs to be done immediately after I finished. And then you start writing a list. You know, pay the insurance bill I just found, whatever. Another page in that notebook might be a list of goals, as you're like, hey, you know what? I should do this. You know, I've really been wanting to do this for a long time and I haven't started it. Because again, as you're focusing just on cleaning and organizing, and as you are accomplishing tasks, you are going to feel more and more able to accomplish others. And so that's when, you know, if you start thinking of, hey, I've been wanting to do this for a really long time and I haven't done it, and that little squirrel inside you wants to be like, let's go look it up and see what it's going to take to get it started. No, write it down, save it for later. When you've finished whatever task, or when your timer goes off, or whatever it is you're working on, to-do lists, priorities, whatever. And that kind of helps to include your brain so that you're kind of purging your brain of those things, but they're written down and it's something that you can go back to later, and you don't have to be like, oh, darn it. See, I didn't do that when I was thinking about it, and now I don't remember what it was. You can avoid that whole thing by, I don't know what that karate chop was. You can avoid that whole thing by writing it down so that you can go back to it later, and you still haven't taken more than 30 seconds out of whatever your focus is that you're working on now. Spring cleaning and self-care. The final thing I have for you on how to get the most out of spring cleaning for your mental health is this. Self-care versus spring cleaning. I think I said that backwards. Tubs and baths. Let's talk about that. If one of your favorite ways to take care of yourself and indulge yourself is to take a bath, and your shower and bathtub is dirty, where should you start? Start with the places that equal self-care for you. I'm going to talk about my closet for a minute. Eric built me the most incredible closet, and it is big enough that I could actually do a couple of yoga poses in it, and I can meditate in it. It's large and it's comfortable, and I have a bench seat in there that serves double duty as a place to sit, to put my shoes on, and also as storage for my winter clothes. I know, I said it, winter clothes. For those of you that grew up in Florida, you probably don't understand. I grew up in Michigan. But a place to put my winter clothes away, things that are, yes, thank you, Danielle. My closet is amazing. But sometimes, listen, y'all, I own an activewear boutique. I sell activewear, which means I live in activewear, and I'm just going to be honest with you, and Danielle has actually seen this. Sometimes my closet looks like a department store puked. That's just the facts. Sometimes my closet looks like a department store threw up in that space. And that's very stressful, because then I can't find anything, and then I don't even have space to sit down there and meditate. And even if I did, because it is big enough to meditate, and I have a salt lamp in there, and I have it all set up. But if it looks like that, it's stressful, and I can't sit in there and meditate. I can't go in there and pray like I usually do. I can't do the things. So if meditation and prayer is a self-care thing for me, which it is, then the first place that I need to clean if I'm starting my spring cleaning is that closet, because that's where I do those things. And so if I can get that cleaned up and under control, then I'm that much more likely to do those self-care things. So if there are things that are specific to you for self-care that you're not doing because you don't have the space to do it, then when you're evaluating where to start your spring cleaning, those places that are going to provide you the opportunity to do your self-care are going to be the best places to start. If flowers make you happy, especially in the spring, Eric just brought me home a beautiful tulip plant yesterday. If flowers make you happy, you can buy yourself flowers. I'm not going to go too far off on this Miley Cyrus tangent. But all your flat surfaces are covered, so you don't have a place to put the flowers when you bring them home. Then maybe you should start with the table or the counter where you would want to put the flowers and clean that first. And then that way, that little piece of self-care that you do for yourself by buying flowers for the table or the counter, that is a self-care thing that you can do right away, because the first place you clean, where you started, was where those flowers need to go. So think about that. That's how self-care and spring cleaning can actually equate together. If your bedroom's a hot mess, if your bedroom looks like your closet threw up in it, but you want your bedroom to be that stress-free space so that you can sleep better, like we talked about last week, then the bedroom is the place to start. Good morning, Miss Carla. I am getting ready to finish up, so be sure to go back to the beginning and watch the whole thing. So again, think about how your spring cleaning equates to your self-care, and start with those places so that you can have your spaces that you need for self-care kind of cleaned up and organized and ready to go, because that will help reduce your stress. So you'll have a visual accomplishment, you'll have reduced stress, you'll be able to do that self-care thing that you maybe couldn't do because that area was a mess, and you're getting your spring cleaning done too. So you can see how it all kind of works together, I hope. So remember these things before I wrap up. You don't have to do it all at once. You do not have to do it all at once. We tell ourselves that it's an all or nothing thing, and that's just not realistic. If you are overwhelmed by the things that you need to or want to get done, start by taking off small little chunks. If your whole dresser, your whole closet needs to be clean, start with a dresser drawer. Start with the top of the bench seat. If you have one in your closet like I do. Start with the laundry basket full of laundry that hasn't been put away for 3 weeks. Start with one thing. And if you are known to kind of trail off, or you do have limited time, then set a timer and be like, I am going to work on this and nothing else for 20 minutes. You'd be amazed how many clothes you can put away in 20 minutes. You'd be at like minute 12 and like, holy crap, I got it done. Why have I been putting this off so long? And that's where those feelings of efficacy and empowerment come from when it comes to cleaning. And those bleed over into everything, not just more cleaning. They bleed over into us emotionally and mentally and spiritually. So you don't have to do it all at once. Pleasing to you does not necessarily mean pleasing to everyone else. That's what we talked about with the social embarrassment, the messy house thing. what works for you in terms of cleanliness and functionality is not necessarily going to look like Martha Stewart's house or like the Sears and Roebuck Wish Book. Okay, the home section of the Sears and Roebuck Wish Book. Carla, I hope you enjoy that reference. I was showing my not age, my experience with that one. But just remember that as long as it's pleasing to you and it's better for you, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. They're not the ones that have to live in that house, right? Or in your brain that is your house, or whatever the case may be here, because we're obviously using spring cleaning metaphorically. So pleasing to you does not have to mean pleasing to everyone else. Don't compare your needs from your home or your cleanliness to somebody else's. Less distractions make better focus. The more of those little piles you get taken care of when you do have to focus on something else. For example, if you're working from home and you've got a pile of dishes and you can't focus on what you're supposed to be working on because you need to go clean that pile of dishes and it keeps creeping back on you, well, then maybe you need to go ahead and take 10 minutes and clean the pile of dishes so that you can focus more for the rest of the time that you're working on that other thing. So less distractions mean better focus. And that's even when you're cleaning. Like I said, put the phone down. Don't check it. I'll pick it up like every hour and look at it. If I'm in a full tilt cleaning thing, I won't look at it except when I take a break. And it helps me to focus and get through those things more. And finally, make it fun. One of the ways that you can reframe spring cleaning is make it fun. Put on some music at the time. Usually if I'm home alone and I'm cleaning, there's some music cranking. And you know what? It makes me move faster and I bounce a little bit more. And cleaning is less like a chore and more like a dance workout, right? If you like to listen to audiobooks or podcasts, that's a great opportunity to take in new information while you're focused on cleaning, and it'll process completely differently. So make it fun. And if you can't find a way to make it fun while you're doing it, then reward yourself. Be like, okay, if I spend 20 minutes a day for the next 5 days working on these things, or for the next 3 days, that's 1 hour. And one of the things is cleaning the bathtub, and then I can take a nice long Epsom salt bath with some candles and a glass of wine. You know what I mean? So there's ways to make it fun and ways to reward yourself for taking these small bites, especially if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, and you have a hard time getting started because you're so overwhelmed by that picture of all these things you have to do. And in our minds, we often think that's all these things we have to do right at the same time. And it just doesn't work that way. So take the little baby steps, take the little chunks, do what makes you feel better. And remember that less distractions, no matter what it is, means better focus. So I hope you found this helpful. That's it. That's my spiel on spring cleaning. I know that I think that if you work on some of these things, you'll be surprised at how much of a difference it'll make for you. And if you did find it helpful, please feel free to share. If you have any questions, any topics you'd like to see me cover in the future, shoot me a message, drop a comment. As long as we stay out of politics and negativity, I will definitely give it a look, do a little research, because I love to learn and see if I can incorporate it in a future topic. On that book, Make Your Bed, I will drop a link in the comments for you. And again, if you missed the sleeping episode and you would like to see that, I will tag you or drop the link in the comments for that as well. I hope you all have a fabulous Wednesday. My next stop is the 9 a.m. Jazzercise class, since I ran a little too late to make the 8 o'clock one, but that's okay. Remember, your plans are always fluid. They don't have to be strict guidelines. But let me know how that spring cleaning goes, whether you're doing it realistically, figuratively, whatever. Let me know how that spring cleaning goes. I'm curious to see what you get out of it this season. All right, I'll talk to you soon. See you next week. Bye-bye.